To cloud or not to cloud, is that the right question? So what I'd like to do is first of all introduce myself, Simon Wilson. I'm the Alliance Lead for Avantra, and my co-host, Brenton, who's our Chief Customer Officer. And also we've got Michele from Red Hat and Robert Walmsley from AWS. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to this discussion together. To cloud or not to cloud, is that the right question? I guess, for me, I think probably one of the key questions is actually, first of all, why change? This is what we hear from our customers quite a lot is, change means risk, it means effort. What's driving that change? So, Rob, do you want to maybe just give us, some perspectives from an AWS standpoint? What do you hear when you're talking to customers around this?
Yes. So, I'm not sure that that cloud is cloud or not to cloud is actually the right question. I think cloud's an enabler, not an end in its own right. So I guess what we're hearing is actually customers have got business challenges, and that business challenge may be, so if we're talking SAP, it may be around a migration to S4, it may be they want more resilience, they want more security. That's why change. It's why change because you have a business requirement, not because cloud is some sort of nirvana that you should be aimed at.
I think that's definitely true. I mean, certainly we do come across certain clients where, they've got a data center that's kind of coming end of life. There's a big technology investment. And certainly in those situations, there's a big push to move to the cloud. But I think the more common scenario is that pull, around some sort of business imperative, some sort of need to innovate or do something that they can't currently do on premise. And that seems to be the biggest driver that we see at the moment. And I think, yes, this idea of cloud is going to be the nirvana and save us lots of money. That's not always the case, is it? Is this what you're hearing when you're talking to customers? It's not. Yeah. It's not a cost-driven decision there.
It's actually the customers that are doing it right. And if you listen to some of the things that Andy Jassy says at reInvent, it's about getting the cultural change at the top and driving it down. And I really like listening to some of Brenton's, this isn't a plug for Brenton, but some of Brenton's discussions about DevOps and changing the way you work. And that's what, that's what adds the value. We'll talk about automation, I'm sure, in one of our later sessions, but moving from 80% of your time and your effort and your money being just keeping the lights on to move that to 20%, and then you've got your 80% freed up to actually add some value to the business. We're IT resources, we're expensive people, and just using us to keep lights on is such a waste of money.
I absolutely love that, Rob. I love the plugs, of course. That's always a good thing. But no, in all seriousness, the change and the shift in mentality that cloud, because a lot of people associate the move to the cloud with I must take everything that I have in my on-premise environment, I must move it to the cloud, whereas actually it's a journey, it's not a destination. And alongside that, it's a shift in mindset as well, because you need to find better ways to innovate, better ways to try things out, and better ways to deliver value to the business ultimately. And cloud is a great enabler for that. So I'm in complete agreement with you.
I think you've really highlighted another good point here as well, Brenton, is that it's not an either or. It's not all cloud or all on premise. The reality is people are looking at a hybrid cloud scenario. They're testing the water. They might be changing that mix. Maybe it's 70-30, it goes to 30-70, whichever, wherever the business is ready for. It might even change based on applications or scenarios that are facing the business around growth, etc. So, really, when we say cloud or not cloud, we're talking which bits are going to be in the cloud and which bits maybe aren't ready for the cloud. And it's really a hybrid discussion. So, Michele, I'm not sure if you've got perspective. I mean, Red Hat, you've been very much in the hybrid cloud space for a long time. So is that what you're finding? It's the same customers that are just changing the mix?
That is exactly what we're finding in the market, right? And I couldn't agree more with Rob and you guys when you say the truth is it's not the final destination, it's a mean to achieve a business innovation. Okay, and in fact, what we usually say in Red Hat, like we embrace cloud to embrace a demand that is coming from the customer, that there might not be 100% of what they do. And that's exactly why Red Hat becomes relevant, because we enable them to do hybrid and to decide what can stay and what can migrate with the maximum flexibility. So it's not written in stone, and you can really move whatever you need your workloads from one model to the other model.
It's a good point, actually, because we think as IT professionals that actually we're driving a lot of the decision around whether to move systems to the cloud or not, because that's ultimately how we run these applications. But the reality is that's not often the case, because there's a business need that's driving it, and potentially the need to go to the cloud for a particular application or solution may be accelerated because of an urgent business need. And certainly what we hear and we talk to our customers about is just be ready for the unexpected. It's not a case of if I move to the cloud, it's when I'm going to move to the cloud. And different applications and different scenarios and different systems will be ready at different points of time. You'll have different business needs will either accelerate or delay these things. But I think as SAP professionals, the important thing is to be ready for all systems at any point, because you don't know when that need's going to come up. We've had really unusual situation with the pandemic over the last year, but that's accelerated the cloud move for some customers. And, certainly some clients, they were ready and waiting for this, and it was a relatively seamless transition. For others, maybe they weren't quite so ready. So I think, probably our takeaway would be just be ready for the unexpected, be ready for change whenever it might come, and be ready to accommodate that and support that change when the business or the IT team drives it. So, I don't know if there's any other sort of closing comments from any of the people on the panel.
Well, I was going to pick up on you said the only question is when. I would say the next question is how. So just reinforcing what Brenton was saying. It isn't all or nothing, and more of our customers now. So we do have some with those data center exits, but more and more of our customers are saying, well, maybe I just want to dip my toe in the water. Maybe I just want to put in a dev system, or I want to try an S4 system, or actually my problem is data. So it's actually, I'll keep my systems where they are for now, but I'll put my data lake in the cloud and I'll pull that data together from various places. So there's such a wide range of how you can do this, and that's what we want to work with our partners such as Avantra to help our customers actually make that transition at the time that's ready for them.
No, you're absolutely right, Rob. And the one thing I'd add to that is, exactly on that journey, we're seeing, customers coming to us saying, right, I need to be able to see the stuff we are putting in the cloud. I need to be able to see the stuff on premise. I need to know how it's all operating in one view. And that is literally one of the most common queries we're getting right now. And obviously, that's one of the reasons we love working with you guys, because we get to showcase all of that to the customers, show them how their overall landscape is operating, and then make that journey just a little bit easier, a little bit more or less of a risk to the overall business operations. So I'm in complete agreement.
So, one of the things that we always talk about is be ready for change. And, a lot of this is talking about the resiliency of operations, and change obviously, creates more risk, and the challenges around keeping SAP up and running become a lot harder when you've got more and more change. So, Rob, I don't know if you've got a perspective on how moving to the cloud can impact resiliency, or some of the practical steps that maybe customers should be thinking about.
Yeah, so I'll split that into two, Simon. So one part of resiliency is actually that physical infrastructure. So using the AWS region concept with its availability zones, you almost get that resiliency out the box. So you get that infrastructure out the box. But then the next stage is really the more exciting, which is that resiliency. So going back to what we mentioned earlier about automation. So how can you introduce those new ways of working and those new practices in order that your processes become more resilient? So whether it's the sort of that monitoring and that predicting that Avantra does, or whether it's being able to operate with your near zero downtime that Michele and Red Hat talk about. It's all those things that are now available to you. That's the really exciting part about resiliency, if resiliency can be deemed exciting.
Well, I think it's certainly exciting if it doesn't work, isn't it? So thrilling for all the wrong reasons. So, Michele, I don't know if you've got a perspective from a Red Hat perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. As Rob was saying, like the way we see resiliency is making sure that we remove as many point of failures as possible, right? So and on the other side also that we can reduce to the minimum amount of time possible every operation that you need to do, so that you keep your lights on without even knowing and putting the effort in, right? So, and that's what automation helps you to do, right? So Rob was giving the example of near zero downtime. That's a procedure. It's not been invented. It's been automated, right? So you can do exactly the same thing that you can do for 10 people that can make a mistake along the way, and then like impact resiliency, you can automate it all the way. And so you keep your lights on without the intervention of expensive people that can do something more innovative, and they'll help you to stay on and to stay on for longer, because they also reduce the downtime. And there are many other examples like we do. I'm sure we'll have other occasion in the next session to discuss about.
Thanks, everyone. Look, I think it's been a good discussion. I think there's some really useful takeaways here for everyone that's watching. And join us for our next sessions. We're going to dive into a little bit more detail on some of the other things to consider as you look to drive improvements in resiliency of your SAP applications. Thanks, everyone.